Hey, dear Tyler. Good morning and happy new month. It's very, very awkward saying all of these things. It's been, I think, over a month that I last posted, and it was Valentine period. And it's just been a long while. I had so many projects that I was handling, so many projects that I was handling, and I got overwhelmed with the amount of work that I had to do. So I'm still working on the project, working on a music project with some friends, and hopeful that probably in the next 2 weeks or thereabout, I should be done with that. Had a lot of activities down at church, had some family emergencies that I needed to handle. Yeah, so a lot just happened. And then, yes, one of the major things that happened within the month was that I released my first book. That's a collaboration that I did with a friend, Anifome Abraham. It's titled Mental Wholeness, and I released it on my birthday. That was 14th of March. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that celebrated me on my birthday. Thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you so much for the calls, the text messages, the credit alerts, and then especially the support on the launch of the book. And you can always still get access to the book if you would really like it. It just costs 2,000 Naira. There are two ways to get it. You could either send a bank transfer to a particular account number, or you could purchase it rather on seller.com. So either way, it still works, right? Whatever rocks your boat, whichever method you would like to use, right? So those are some of the things that occurred within the time period that I was away, right? And I'm trying my best to push back, to be discovered the whole, ginger. When you get, I think one thing that I really, really wish I handled was, planning and, incorporating my busy schedule into a lot of things. So I'm not sure that I really, really plan things very well. So it's a little bit overwhelming, but yeah, we're back to it. So I think I'll just flow from exactly where I stopped, right? I don't want to use the excuse of, it's been a long time that we spoke, and so let me change topic and just make things a little bit more confusing for me. But I'm going to talk about what I would have spoken on if I had not stopped, and that's excess love, right? Excess love. There's this beautiful song by Mercy Chinwo, right? So there was this year that the song was just trending, right? And I think it's just typical with human nature that there are seasons for certain songs. So you just at a particular time, there's one song that would just seem to catch the crowd, right? It seems to just minister and speak to people the most. And at that particular time was Excess Love. I think there was a time when it was Nara Nara Narekele Narekele. So I'll never forget, there was a time that I went for a concert, and it was the period when Nara was trending. I kid you not, I think about 7 people sang Nara. Oh Lord, it was tiring, and it almost became like a little formula. So if I'm singing, I'm probably like, I don't sense that the crowd is following me or the crowd is feeling me at that time. All I do is just switch to Nara, and everybody just becomes so engrossed in the song, whether emotionally or whether it's really ministering to them. Either way, there was this very, very strong pull. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's just Nara Narekeleo. Everybody's just excited. So there was a period of excess love, right? Just sing a little bit and just that, Jesus, you love me too much, oh. Then the whole congregation responds, too much, oh, excess love, oh. right? And I think for me, I'm not the kind of person that goes on trends. So I tend to appreciate things after they have died down rather. So I tend to appreciate most of these songs like after. Well, when people sing it a lot, I don't know if it's my critical nature, that maybe people are just emotional about certain things. God is helping me through that. But when the whole hype has died down, that's when I tend to be open up to the song and then appreciate the song for itself. I don't know. So if I'm being too critical, please forgive me. And in the month of February, we're talking about love. Understanding your partner's love language, being intentional about knowing what your partner wants, and even if it's not just your partner, but any relationship, right? You need to find a way that you can easily communicate with an individual, right? And how best the person will understand. One of the key things that I said was that the goal is not to be heard, the goal is to be understood, right? So you could say a lot, you could do a lot, but then if you say it and do it in a language or manner that they cannot understand, it's pointless. And I think I gave an example of languages, right? I could be giving directions in a certain language, and what I may be saying, and what I'm saying, right, could be true, right? That it could be absolutely true. But if it's in a language that they do not understand, it does not benefit them at all, right? So it's very, very key for us to be able to understand or to value the place of making sure people understand our hearts, right, and interpret us in the perfect way. Now, excess love, and the reason why I decided to use this terminology is that there's a way we can misinterpret love, that we give it too much. Now, I used to watch, sometimes on social media, there's a way the algorithm just works that you may just encounter a particular reel, right, or a particular video, and I watched a certain video of a mother having it very, very difficult with her child, right? So the child used to throw tantrums, used to get upset, and she couldn't really discipline the child. And when she was talking with the therapist, the therapist asked her, like, okay, what happens when you and your child enter all these issues, right? When you want to discipline your child and your child begins to throw tantrums. And then the mother says that I give the child what the child wants. I give the child what the child wants. And then I go through the comment section. The comment section of social media is usually much more interesting than whatever content is even posted there. Some people are like, yeah, you have to love the child into understanding, just be tender with the child. And I was just thinking about my life, and I was like, oh God, there are some things. This is not a jab to any culture or to any particular region, right? But there's some things that African culture have just eliminated. I'll never forget, there was a time that I had this cousin of mine, right? Or I have, he's still alive, so I have this cousin of mine that was very stubborn, and I think he has kept up with that trend. He's still pretty stubborn. I'm not spoken to him in a while, but he was a very stubborn boy. And he did something, and I've been very, I've been keeping myself, like holding myself rather, from being all aggressive towards him. I always used to caution him. And I think we're trying to discipline him over something that he was laughing. And at that point in time, one of my other cousins now told me that there was a time that he locked my grandmother in the room he and his elder sister locked my grandmother in the room. And the guy was laughing when we were saying it. I don't know how, but I entered into beast mode. I beat the living daylight out of that child, Jehovah. I beat him. Oh, I beat him. I beat him to the point that my neighbors came over, and they were begging me. They were like, uncle, please. These are people that could probably give birth to me, were calling me uncle. And I think it was when they were calling me uncle that I realized that, okay, I'd gone, way beyond. I beat this child. From that day, when the boy sees me, he calls me Sho. Now, Sho in my language is like elder brother. It's like elder generally, right? So from that moment, the boy just became very okay. I remember he tried misbehaving to my younger brother one time. My younger brother dealt with him. And he came, started greeting us. There were some things that just changed. And he would always be stubborn until we are around, me or some of my other cousins. The moment we're around, there's this way he just enters into discipline mode. There's this fallacy about choking people with presumed love, where you give somebody so much of something. So and I'll give myself as an example. I was in a relationship once, and I think it's the most toxic relationship I've ever been in. And it's because my definition of love at that time was pour yourself out to the person, just give so much to this individual, condone their excesses, give excuses to their flaws, to their attitude, whatever you can do, right, Binga, that will just let this person know that you're all out for them, do it. It was the most toxic relationship I've ever been. I used the whole period of time that I was in this relationship to try to prove myself, right? I never rebuked the person, never told the person, okay, you did wrong once, and fully well knowing that this person was in the wrong, but then I was like, I'm going to love them back into right. And this person had no issues with calling out my own bluffs, or but I call it bluffs, or calling out my own inadequacies. The person would tell me, pop and plain, this person hurt me in such a terrible way. But I thought I could love them in excess back into doing right. And I usually, part of the scripture that I use, is like, while we're yet sinners, Christ died for us. And it's because of the excess leaning towards a particular thought, right, that I put myself in that trouble. Because the other parts of scripture that says that whom the Father loves, he chastises. That chastising, and discipline are all parts of an expression of love. When somebody knows that they can have their way around you, it's no longer love. That's called manipulation. You're no longer being loved. You're being manipulated. You're no longer loving a person. You are you're slowly feeding a demon. You're slowly feeding a vice. Right now, I'm not talking that the individual is a demon. I'm talking about the character. You're slowly feeding an appetite that will become very, very ferocious along the line. Now, you could see that there are a lot of families now, going back to that video that I was talking about. Now, this lady felt like she wanted the love of her child. She wanted the approval of her child. And she kept on feeding the person with things, or feeding that child with things that somehow the child would be like, okay, this person really loves me, and so I'm going to change and be better. And sadly, humans don't work that way. You there are a lot of times that we feed certain appetites in people with the hope that they're going to see the value that we bring. And sometimes it makes us create indisciplined individuals. There is something called excess love. And excess love in the aspect of that we're doing things without moderation, we're doing things without caution, we're doing things without building the proper character. Now, there'll be a time that because of so much that you give at that time, right, and in the manner that you give, people become entitled. People become entitled. Oh, you're meant to do this. Oh, you haven't told me this in so time, right? And it's dangerous when you make people feel entitled to certain things. Now, these are things that I'm actually struggling with, because my personality is to go all out, and it's not something that I'm going to change. But then going all out also means preserving the integrity of that individual, preserving the life of that individual. That person is capable and culpable of becoming something really, really bad if you do not tame certain appetites. Now, this is what keeps people in abusive relationships, right? So they'll be like, oh, okay, this particular guy, he beats me, right? But if I love him enough, he will change. He can change. Now, am I saying that you should become all defensive and all? No. But you should be able to love people into discipline. And you should be able to love yourself to the point that you do not lose yourself in the process of loving others. If in the process of loving others you forget who you are, then you're loving incorrectly. You forget who you are, then you're loving incorrectly. If every time you love an individual, you feel that you are at a loss, then you are loving incorrectly. And that's the truth. If any time you're loving an individual and you feel you're losing something, then you are totally loving incorrectly. Love should be able to be something that you pour out easily, no bars held, no issue, no consent. You're not feeling like you're at a loss in any way, that something necessarily is taken away from you. But then when you feel consistently drained, it means that you are pouring out beyond what is expected. And I think that that's the truth. Because truly somebody that loves you, right, and somebody that appreciates you, somebody that sees what you're doing, they would do all in their power. They'll do all in their power to make sure that whatever you do is valued and is appreciated. There's a way that they will reciprocate it in one way or the other. You would know. You will not find yourself in limbo as to are they valuing what I'm doing or not. Sometimes I'm a very, very open person, and there's sometimes that I just have to be very stern. And being very stern for me can be new territory, because when you live your life trying to gain the approval of people, you can put yourself in that position where you just do things without moderation. And I realized that the moments where put a strong foot on certain things and say, okay, we're not going to do this. And I'm doing it not because I don't like you. I'm doing it really because of love. The Bible says that the love of God constrains us. So it means that an attribute of love is restraining people from doing certain things. There's this very common example that we usually give, or that was usually given. They said, no matter how much you love your child, you'll never give that child your car to drive. No matter how much that child cries and begs and pleads, you're not going to give that child that car, because you know that particular thing can harm the child. The child has not grown to the extent of handling that amount of responsibility or taking on that task. You're not going to do that. You're not going to ask your 1-year-old to cut onions. right? Because you know that that 1-year-old has not gotten to the point where he can handle a knife, you get, or handle kitchen utensils. And they can throw tantrums. And what do? You keep them aside. Do you understand? Now, I'm not going to say that, oh, because I love this child, I'm going to allow the child do what. No. At that point in time, you're not even loving the child. Because love protects. Love protects. If I notice that you're beginning to have an addiction to a certain thing, and you're becoming, you're losing control, that self-control aspect and factor, right? I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you. I can love you too much into danger. You can love people too much into danger. And if you don't love people properly, if you don't love them in the way that they should, like I said, you're going to create a monster at the end of the day. There are a lot of people, because of how they've been brought up at home or in their community, they feel that life or individuals should treat them in a particular way, and that's not true. And that's not true. Really, that's not true. Give your best to people. But when people begin to make demands out of certain things in a very, very excessive way, then you really need to be able to curtail it. Once you notice that they're going out of their way to do things that will harm them, you better stop them. You better stop them. I've decided to love my friends enough to tell them that, okay, I don't think what you're doing is proper. I should stop. I remember the first time I had to confront a particular friend over something, right? It was deep for me. It was very difficult. But it was putting a whole lot of pressure on me as a person too. And I remember when I spoke to the person, I said, okay, you really need to start doing this. You really need to start doing this, because whenever you don't do this, it puts a burden on me as an individual. And at that point in time, I felt very, very, I felt like the whole world was going to cave in on me. But then this, my friend, adjusted, and we've been moving a lot better. Anything that we do, right? Anything that we do in life that we, anything that we do with people, sorry, I was just distracted. Anything that we do with people, right? And maybe we notice that there's an excess in their life for certain things, they're going out of their way to do certain things, and we do not point it out to them. Invariably, what we're saying is that we are permitting it to continue. Whatever you don't address, you permit to continue. Right? You license everything you don't talk about. You license every behavior you do not address. You license every attitude. You license every character trait, whatever it is. You literally license it if you do not address it. Now, finally, confrontation is one thing that I hate, but confrontation is something that I'm learning to accept, because I love people, right? And when people call out my own issues, it's difficult to accept my faults. It's difficult to accept my own frailties. It's difficult to accept my own flaws. But I found out that I've become a better person every time when somebody told me that, oh, please, I think you've done this too much, right? I'm not going to have any form of psychophancy around you and, say, oh, Pinka, this, I'm going to tell you where you're doing things out of place. And then I put myself in position, right? Put myself in the right place. So it's very, very important that we do not get to the point where we are, we're so loose with people that we cannot love them into discipline, we cannot love them into standards, that we cannot love them into self-control. It's very, very important, Tyler. And you've got to love yourself into that. There's a thing about giving yourself consistent comfort, right? It can put you in a very, very terrible place. You've got to love yourself to the point of discipline, right? You cannot allow yourself to continue in whatever is enabling you, anything that just satisfies your flesh, satisfies your passion. No, you've got to be able to love yourself, to be disciplined enough to bring out the best in yourself, right? So there's something called excess love. Now, in the context of the song, excess love is like something beyond comprehension, right? Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with the song. Please, there's nothing wrong with the song. I'm just using that caption, excess love, to be able to express a particular line of thought, right? So I really hope that this blessed you. And please remember to share this content with other people. I'm making some adjustments to the Dear Tyler community. And so those of you that want to be part of it, I would really, really like you just reach out to me on Instagram, all our social media handles, right? Just check us out there, right? So thank you so much, Tyler. Remember that I love you, I believe in you, and I'm always rooting for you. Bye.